Hello everyone! The other day, we were having some conversations on Twitter about the fate of Mal'Ganis. Turns out that not everybody knows what he's done in the story quite yet. That, on top of the upcoming expansion Shadowlands, which has the Lich King play a big part, it had me think that it would be a good idea to revisit his story.
Mal'Ganis, I am eternal!
Mal'Ganis is a Ner'zhul, also known as Dreadlord, or perhaps Talkitun, it would be a more fitting name, which means unseen guest. The Warcraft Chronicles, it says that the demons, like the Dreadlords, they come from the Twisting Nether, which is an astral dimension where at the edges of the realm, light and void collided and bled together, throwing the domain into turmoil. Cunning and manipulative, the Ner'zhul relish infiltrating mortal civilizations, sowing unrest and turning nation against nation. As these societies devolved and crumbled from within, the Ner'zhul would then corrupt the populations, twisting innocence into new and horrific breeds of demon. The Dreadlords, they had quite a lot of fun doing all of this, but opposition would soon arise to stand against them. Mainly in the form of the mighty Titan Sargeras. He battled with the demons, but he soon realized that he couldn't take them out entirely. Their spirits, they're tethered to the Twisting Nether. Even if a demon dies in the physical universe, its spirit, it will just return to the Twisting Nether and manifest in corporal form once again. To truly kill them, it has to be done within the Twisting Nether, or places suffused with their power. Sargeras, he didn't have a copy of the Chronicles in his pockets, so he didn't know this at the time. Instead, he decided to build them a prison to contain the demons. One that he would later shatter himself as he formed his Burning Legion, and he set out to burn away the corruption of the universe. To lead his mighty demonic ranks, he recruited a race of Eredar to join their forces. You might have heard of Archimonde and Kil'jaeden before. Eventually, the might of the Legion, it sets its eyes on a little planet known as Azeroth, their next target to conquer and destroy. But Azeroth is not without its defenses. The Legion had already tried several plots and schemes to invade the world, like the War of the Ancients, or corrupting their Guardian, or the invasion of the Horde through the Dark Portal. No luck there so far, but Kil'jaeden the Deceiver, he came up with a brilliant idea. He would take the spirit of the orc Ner'zhul, which is an orc that had tried to betray him, only to arrive right at Kil'jaeden's doorstep. That orc suffered unimaginable torture at the Legion's hands. His physical body, it was torn apart bit by bit, but his spirit was kept alive, intact, and utterly aware of what was happening. This finally brings us to Mal'Ganis himself, as a group of Dreadlords, Tychondrius, Balnazar, Defrock, Varimafras, and Mal'Ganis. They took turns subjecting Ner'zhul to the most horrific agony, and the orc, it soon begged for death. Kil'jaeden agreed to grant it to him, but only in return for absolute servitude as the Legion's new weapon. Death would only be the beginning for our Ner'zhul, and with his sanity cracking, he finally agreed. Kil'jaeden passed the orc's spirit through death and revived him as a spectral entity. The orc's consciousness expanded 1,000-fold, granting him extraordinary psychic powers. The Dreadlords then bound his disembodied spirit to a specially crafted set of armor and a mighty runeblade called Frostmourne. These items were locked in a diamond-hard block of ice to imprison Ner'zhul, and then it was sent off onto Azeroth to cause destruction and mayhem, to ultimately summon the Burning Legion and finally claim this stubborn little planet. But Ner'zhul was not the obedient little puppet that Kil'jaeden had wanted him to be. The Dreadlords, they came with him to keep an eye on things, and on the surface, it seemed like the Lich King, it was doing exactly what they wanted him to do, while in truth, he was actually working on his own plans. He had to be subtle about it though, as to not to draw the Dreadlords' attention. As their conquest pushed further, the Lich King eventually made contact with a human who was called Kel'Thuzad. The Archmage had already dabbled a bit in necromancy, but the call of the Lich King, it opened his eyes to possibilities far beyond what he could have ever dreamed of. He would journey to Icecrown in Northrend, the location where the Lich King had landed, build up his base, where Kel'Thuzad pledged his loyalty. Then he worked on forming his cult of the damned and developing a plague. One that would not only wipe out humanity, it also converted the fallen into the undead, into the Scourge, bolstering the Lich King's ranks. The lands of Lordaeron would be plunged in darkness, And their Prince Arthas Menethil, he would do everything in his power to try and save his beloved people and kingdom, unaware that the Lich King had chosen him. He had manipulated the Dreadlords and drawn their attention to Arthas. They saw him as the perfect champion to corrupt, but luring him to Northrend to then pick up Frostmourne and become an agent of the Lich King, that would be no easy task. The young human had only just started down his path of self-destruction. The Lich King and the Dreadlords, they would need to guide him the rest of the way. A plan was crafted based on the Lich King's advice, starting with Kel'Thuzad confronting the prince and letting him know what was going on.
Hello again, children. I am Kel'Thuzad, and I've come to deliver a warning. Leave well enough alone. Your curiosity will be the death of you.
Are you responsible for this plague, Necromancer? Is this cult your doing?
Yes, I ordered the Cult of the Damned to distribute the plagued grain. But the sole credit is not mine.
What do you mean?
I serve the Dreadlord, Mal'Ganis. He commands the scourge that will cleanse this land and establish a paradise of eternal darkness.
And what exactly is this scourge meant to cleanse?
Why, the living, of course. His plan is already in motion. Seek him out at Strathall if you need further proof.
After confronting and slaying Kel'Thuzad, which was all part of their plan, the prince, even more desperate and unhinged, he focused his attention on reaching Stratholme and vanquishing Mal'Ganis. They had chosen this city for specific reasons. It was heavily populated, as it was the region's most important city, strategically and economically. It was also a holy site, the birthplace of the Paladin Order, which Arthas was also a member of. If Stratholme would fall to the plague and become overrun by undead, it would be disastrous.
Listen, Uther. There's something about the plague you should know. Oh no. We're too late. These people have all been infected. They may look fine now, but it's just a matter of time before they turn into the undead.
What?
This entire city must be purged.
A decision of desperation. The prince did not know if he was making the right call here, but in his mind, it would be more merciful. It would be better if the citizens of Stratholme died at their hands, rather than being turned into the undead. Yet Uther the Lightbringer and Jaina Proudmoore, they did not agree. They could not stand at his side during this slaughter, so they left him behind to inform the king. Amidst the carnage and death, Arthas, he did finally find Mal'Ganis. The Dreadlord was eager to destroy the human, but that was not his purpose.
I've been waiting for you, young prince. I am Mal'Ganis. As you can see, your people are now mine. I will now turn this city household by household until the flame of life has been snuffed out forever.
I won't allow it, Mal'Ganis. Better that these people die by my hand than serve as your slaves in death. We're going to finish this right now, Mal'Ganis. Just you and me.
Brave words. Unfortunately for you, it won't end here. Your journey has just begun, young prince. Gather your forces and meet me in the Arctic land of Northrend. It is there that we shall settle the score between us. It is there that your true destiny will unfold.
I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth if I have to. Do you hear me? To the ends of the earth!
Onwards to Northrend, one step closer to Frostmourne, and one step closer to the embrace of the Lich King. Arthas believed that if he could vanquish Mal'Ganis, he could shatter the scourge and stop the plague of undeath forever. While fire still licked at the ruins of Stratholme, he gathered his followers, and they set sail. Now the Lich King and the Dreadlords, they couldn't just hold his hand and lead him to Frostmourne. That would only make the prince suspicious. To be more subtle about it, the Lich King turned his attention to the dwarf explorers who were trekking across Northrend. They were led by Muradin Bronzebeard, who was a familiar face at the court of Lord Ron, had even trained Arthas. They had come here in search of ancient artifacts. He would be the perfect messenger to inform Arthas about Frostmourne. With the Lich King's guidance, Mal'Ganis and the other Dreadlords, they manipulated the dwarves. The demons, they secretly planted clues about Frostmourne and its location within the explorers' encampment, which included maps and ancient histories that spoke of a legendary rune blade. None of the dwarves could actually remember where this information had come from. They assumed that they just hadn't noticed it before. But the rune blade, it intrigued Muradin, and the dwarves set out to find it. Meanwhile, Arthas and his soldiers, they had made landfall, while the Lich King guided his Scourge forces to attack Muradin and guide him towards Arthas. When the dwarf and the prince finally crossed their paths, it seemed like nothing more than a chance meeting, and a fortuitous one at that. Muradin told Arthas of his purpose in Northrend, and of his more recent quest to find Frostmourne. The story of the blade, it enticed the prince. It could prove useful in the fight against Mal'Ganis. His hopes swelled, only to be crushed by news from Lord Ron. As his father, he was not down with the expedition that his son had begun. He had decided to recall their troops, and the prince saw only one way to save his quest. In secret, he burned their own ships. None of his soldiers knew that the prince was responsible. Now, they had no choice but to remain in the cold land of Northrend and finish their mission.
You lied to your men and betrayed the mercenaries who fought for you. What's happening to you, Arthas? Is vengeance all that's important to you?
Spare me, Muradin. You weren't there to see what Mal'Ganis did to my homeland.
The Dark Lord said you would come. This is where your journey ends, boy. Trapped and freezing at the roof of the world, with only death to sing the tale of your doom.
This looks bad. We're completely surrounded.
There's still one chance. Help me claim Frostmourne. If it's as powerful as you said, it might tilt the scales in our favor.
I have a bad feeling about this, lad. But I promised I'd see this through.
Behold, Muradin, our salvation. Frostmourne.
Halt, lad. There's an inscription on the dais. It's a warning. It says, "Whomsoever takes up this blade shall wield power eternal. Just as the blade rends flesh, so must power scar the spirit." Oh, I should have known. The blade is cursed. Let's get the hell out of here.
I would gladly bear any curse to save my homeland.
Leave it be, Arthas. Forget this business and lead your men home.
Damn the men! Nothing shall prevent me from having my revenge, old friend. Not even you. Now, I call out to the spirits of this place. I will give anything or pay any price, if only you will help me save my people.
So, you've taken up Frostmourne at the expense of your comrades' lives, just as the Dark Lord said you would. You're stronger than I thought.
You waste your breath, Mal'Ganis. I heed only the voice of Frostmourne now.
You hear the voice of the Dark Lord. He whispers to you through the blade you wield. What does he say, young human? What does the Dark Lord of the Dead tell you now?
He tells me that the time for my vengeance has come.
What? He can't possibly mean to...
It is finished.
Prince Arthas gave up a piece of his soul to wield Frostmourne. As the blade, it has the power to consume and victim spirits. The death of Mal'Ganis, it was unexpected, and it infuriated the other Dreadlords. But they decided not to punish Ner'zhul the Lich King. The entity had managed to convince the demons that the slaying, it was an unfortunate accident. The prince had not been under his full control yet. Now he was, and the Lich King promised that the now Death Knight would never again raise a hand against the Dreadlords. An outright lie, of course, as the Lich King had no intention to forever serve the Burning Legion. They did make it look like they were obedient servants. They brought back Hel'Vuzad as a Lich, summoned Archimonde onto the world, while in truth, they moved their pawns in such a way to get rid of the demonic threats. Azeroth defenders were able to hold their ground and save the day. While Arthas, he journeyed back to Northrend to place the Helm of Domination on his head, and he would merge with the Lich King. As far as Arthas and the Lich King knew, Mal'Ganis had perished in their attack. But such was not the case. According to the chronicles, when the Dreadlords crossed the Frostmourne, they made sure to shield themselves from its power. The blade, it had not devoured Mal'Ganis' soul, it had simply hurled it back into the twisting nether. That means that in time, the Dreadlord was reborn into a new body and returned to Azeroth. We actually saw him again in the expansion Wrath of the Lich King, the time in which Arthas the Lich King had woken up and he became a threat to the world to stand against. In the Death Knight starting experience, we see brand new Death Knights fighting against the Scarlets near Tyr's Hand within the Eastern Plaguelands. The High General of the Scarlets, Abendis, she's been receiving visions from the light, the complete destruction of everything that they've built here, and that they must take the remainder of the most faithful and abandon the crusade to their doom. Their true fate would lie in Northrend, where the now Scarlet Onslaught, they build up New Hearthglen in Dragonblight, right next to the Forgotten Shore, and an onslaught upon Northrend they shall be. The cancer of the Scourge threatens to overflow in the crown of the world and drown the rest of us. The time has come to take the fight directly to the Lich King's doorstep. After about a month or so, a visitor arrived, Admiral Barian Westwind, who they had thought had died upon these shores ages ago. But here he was, claiming that he was the only survivor of his doomed fleet, and that he had survived only through the good graces of the light. Abendis and Westwind, they stayed up, speaking through the night and into the morning. He assured her that he had no intention of taking her place, but that the light had instructed him to travel across the Great Dragonblight, to serve as her advisor and be commander in title only. She doesn't know exactly what it is, but something here, it doesn't seem right. Something is stopping her from fully trusting the Admiral. And with good reason, when we confront Abendis in Dragonblight, the Admiral, he bubbles himself and he floats out of there, moving over with the Scarlets the Ice Crown, once more into the breach, this time prepared to nullify his barrier magic. And as it turns out, this Admiral Barian Westwind, it was actually a disguise used by Mal'Ganis.
What? No matter. Even without my spear, I will crush you. Behold my true identity and despair.
No wrong. I am Mal'Ganis. Enough! I waste my time here. I must gather my strength on the home front. You'll never defeat the Lich King without my forces. I'll have my revenge on him and you.
Gather his strength on their home world, the world of Nafreza, promising us that we're never going to defeat the Lich King without his forces. He shall have his revenge on the Lich King and on us. A storyline, a promise that never really came to be, as the expansion, it ended without Mal'Ganis making a return. Instead, the heroes of Azeroth, they defeated Arthas the Lich King without the Dreadlord's aid. To which Bolvar Fordragon, he picked up the helmet, became the new jailer of the damned. Mal'Ganis wouldn't return until the expansion Legion, where on the Broken Shore, a whole bunch of familiar names they showed up, promising us that Azeroth was doomed, that we had no chance against them. But once more, the world proved them wrong, and it defended itself from the biggest Legion invasion as of yet. Our boy Mal'Ganis, he didn't really do anything during the expansion itself, so it's very possible that he's still wandering the planet somewhere. We know that he's capable of taking on any disguise that he desires, and with Shadowlands on the horizon, the connections between the Nafrezim, these unseen guests, and the Lich King, what a great time to have this key character make a return and play his part in the story.
A turtle made it to the water.
But if that will happen, only time is going to tell. So for now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one. And until next time, see ya!